Hey guys, welcome back. I swear, nothing in my life has ever given me more mixed signals than this damn Halo TV show. Halo's history with Hollywood has always been a fairly troubled one, from the early days of Peter Jackson's super ambitious Halo movie to the more recent shows that, I mean, let's be honest, they weren't exactly anything to shout from the rooftops about, but the one glimmer of hope that's been hanging over us for the past 6 years is the mythical Steven Spielberg Halo TV show. Since it was announced over half a decade ago, the only news that we've ever had from 343 is just them reassuring us that yes, the TV show is still happening, despite the distinct lack of evidence proving so. Until recently. Over the past 6 or so months, it seems the TV show has kicked into gear, and for real this time. However, this isn't all good news exactly, it's a bit of both depending on your views, hence why I think this TV show could end up being one of the best, or in the absolute worst case scenario, maybe one of the worst things that ever happened to Halo. Well, maybe worst is a bit of an exaggeration. I don't know, I've certainly seen some people saying that this TV show could kill their entire love for Halo, and I'm not kidding, but let's dive into the good first off. So, the first thing is that Master Chief has officially been cast. An actor by the name of Pablo Schreiber is going to be playing Chief, and I think it was a really good cast personally. The things that I've seen Schreiber in before have been really damn good. He played William Lewis in Law & Order SVU, a serial rapist who, as you can imagine, does some pretty screwed up stuff, but he played the role really damn well. He was also really good in 13 Hours with John Krasinski, and from what I've heard, he's really good in American Gods too. All in all, in my opinion, a great cast, but it does pose one problem. You don't cast someone like Pablo Schreiber if you aren't gonna show their face, and given who he's playing, this might be an issue. I know some people want to see Chief's face, but to me, a massive part of Chief's character is the fact that it's a mystery, the fact that he's a soldier that you project your own personality and identity onto. At least that's how he was in the original Halo trilogy. That has sort of changed now, but still, I'm not exactly a huge fan of showing his face, even though it has been done a few times before. However, Chief wasn't all that was cast. Australian-Korean stage actor Yerin Ha has also been cast as Kwon Ah, an Outer Colony teenager who encounters Chief at a fateful time for them both, which I'm guessing is going to be during the heat of a Covenant invasion or something like that. But just wait 1 minute before you start speculating about which Outer Colony planet this could be, or when in the Human Covenant War this is going to take place, because the next thing we're going to talk about may throw a wrench into that. So, as the title says, the show is going to be taking inspiration from none other than Game of Thrones, in the way that it adapts a story from a different medium, in this case the games, to TV. Now, because Game of Thrones' original story was written in the novel form, it couldn't be directly transferred over to a show with only 10 hours per season. There's simply just too much there for it to be viable. Like, the fact that there's over 100 characters called John in the books, stuff like that is perfectly fine for 400 plus page novels with spin-offs and other minor stories, but in only 10 hours of TV a year, it just doesn't work, and the same goes for Halo 2. We don't know when the show is going to be set yet, but we do know that it's at some point, sort of early-ish on in the Human Covenant War. Now, there's a lot of pre-existing lore there that could potentially conflict with the type of story that 343 want to tell to reach the largest audience possible, and according to Kiki Wolfkill, one of 343's executives working on the show, if the odd thing has to be changed here and there to facilitate the story, then it will be, just like it is on Game of Thrones. But then at the same time, the sort of early Human Covenant War era, that part of the timeline, there's a lot of gaps in it, so I don't really think there's any need to retcon existing stuff when you could just be filling gaps, but either way, this doesn't seem too bad in itself. Small retcons aren't exactly anything new, quite honestly, and if they help make a story as good as it can be and reach the largest audience possible, then I'm not going to complain by any means. At the end of the day, this show is a huge opportunity for Halo to reach an entirely new, massive audience for the first time, and if doing so requires a few minor retcons here and there, then honestly, I think it'd be kind of silly to not let that happen. However, there's a distinct difference in the way the Game of Thrones TV show is presented and how we've been led to believe that the Halo TV show will be. Thrones isn't in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe. Nothing that happens in the show affects the story of the books, it's its own entity. Whereas with the Halo show, it seems as if it'll all be canon, and this leads me to worry how far 343 will take it. The reason that Thrones can get away with changing characters and dates and events is because it doesn't affect the source material, whereas with Halo, it will do. Now granted, they're not going to make the TV show invalidate any of the major stuff, like the games or anything, but at the end of the day, it could still end up changing things that have been set in stone for well over a decade. And this is where the extremely controversial thing comes in. Now, I've seen some people praising this to the high heavens, and I've seen other people saying that if it happens, it'll literally kill their interest in the Halo franchise forevermore. So, brace yourselves. 343 are considering, emphasis on the considering, making the show a branch of the canon, like Game of Thrones. Now, personally, I'm not entirely against this. I think if the story you want to tell requires a lot of quite significant retcons, then this is definitely the best move to maintain the integrity of the main canon, but my main issue with this is that it just sort of makes the story seem pointless. If it's not canon, then what are the long-lasting effects of everything that happens? Why should we care about any new characters that the show introduces if they only exist within this tiny non-canon bubble outside the universe? See, this is an issue that Game of Thrones doesn't have. Because it's an adaptation of the main story of Ice and Fire, the longevity's there. Ned Stark's death and the North seceding from the South meant something, because even at the end of this grand story 6 years later, their effects are still being felt because the show is spanning the entire overall story. But this won't be the case for the Halo TV show, unless of course it ends up spanning the entire Covenant War, which I doubt. This means we'll never feel the long-term aftershock of everything that happens to Chief and to Quan and to this outer colony planet, because we won't get to experience the rest of the war in that sort of non-canon bubble. That, or what happens to them in the show, won't be significant enough to leave a long-lasting effect, which I highly doubt will be the case. I mean, granted, there's always the chance that the show is a worldwide phenomenon and Showtime greenlight 10 more seasons for it so it can cover the rest of the war, but if something like that doesn't happen, then it'll make the show's self-contained story just feel kind of pointless in the grand scheme of things, because none of it means anything in the overall grand story. It doesn't really have an effect on anything else that isn't inside this self-contained bubble. At least that's my take on it. Maybe that didn't make any sense at all, but they're my views on it. The bottom line is, I honestly don't know if a branch of canon will even work, considering the Halo show isn't an adaptation of Halo's story, it's a story within the overall Halo story, so I really don't see how a branch of canon can work there, but I don't know, overall, don't get me wrong, I'm still really hyped for the show, and I think that despite the canon issues, it'll be Halo's best attempt at a TV show yet by a mile. And honestly, I'm one of those people that doesn't really get too bothered if a franchise telling a story in a different medium overrides the source material, unless of course it's something super egregious like Walking Dead. I will never forgive them for killing off Carl in the TV show. That was the stupidest idea ever conceived in the history of existence. Over the years, the TV shows had various comparisons given to it with Game of Thrones, from the show's budget and value to it becoming Showtime's sci-fi answer to it, and that alone is enough to get me so hyped. A network as big and well-renowned as Showtime will not call something their answer to Game of Thrones without seriously meaning it. I can only imagine if the show ends up being well received and lasting for years, and we get to experience the build-up to a Halo equivalent of the Battle of Winterfell. Whew, a guy can dream. So that's all for today, fellas. Leave your thoughts on the Halo TV show down below in the comments. Would you be okay with a branch of the canon, or would you rather the show be canon and run the risk of a few retcons here and there? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. I want to give a big thank you to Seth Martrain for the new Primordial pledge over on Patreon, as well as, of course, everyone else who supports me over there. And thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I'll catch you in the next one.